Welcome to Just About Anything. I hate doing intros. Shit's cringy as hell. What's up, John?
Hey, Jeff.
Hey. Do we even acknowledge that he's here? Is that the trick? Because we just act like he's not.
I'm not here.
Yeah.
It's fine. No biggie.
Fine.
This is fine.
I'm here to listen. I should be over there just staring at you the whole time.
Aww.
Oh.
Aw.
All right, John. I'm trying to remember what the phrase is that people use by. Is it unanimous acclaim or unanimous request or whatever? A lot of people, and by a lot of people specifically this guy, was like, you should get this dude on this podcast because I heard that you have a lot of opinions.
I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things.
Okay, all right. So, like, I guess I should. I always don't preface this a lot, or I feel like I need to preface this more. At least for now, I probably stop doing this. But if you have come to this channel and you are now seeing some people just sitting around a table talking, and the last time you were here I was playing Apex Legends. I do this. This is a podcast thing that I do from time to time. It is it gets very political, and that's fine. I don't want to see TOS flying in the chat. Like we're good. Like that's something that we can do on Twitch for now. I'm sure that will change sometime.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not looking to offend anybody because I've gotten some spicy messages since the last one that I did. But yeah, hopefully everybody gets something out of it, and like we can talk about shit that actually matters. And I hopefully motivate both myself and other people to do some shit that actually matters. But yeah, that's my spiel. I guess we talked a little bit about it. Was it? No, I don't think it was with you. It was with AJ that I talked about this. The Gina Calero shit.
Oh, her getting fired from Disney?
Yeah. So like, I am very curious as to people's takes on this because I feel like I have a very like, I'd say it's very like it's 80% like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
But then there's this 20% of me that's like, okay, yes, don't do that, but holy shit, like this is like we're nuking people. But maybe my take on that is like can be catered a bit more.
I don't think it's necessarily nuking someone for posting anti-Semitic memes.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
And honestly, a company has the right to do.
They do.
In America,
yeah.
No matter how you feel about this country, that's how it is.
Yeah.
A company has whatever the right they feel like to fire whoever they want for whatever speech.
Sure.
There's no freedom of speech in a corporation,
No.
and she was warned ahead of time to not make posts like that.
That's the other thing that I said it before and I'll say it again. This is not the first thing that she's done like that. So like I'm not out here being like she shouldn't have been fired. What I'm concerned about though is like I'm not asking everybody to be Gandhi or whatever or MLK or whatever, but it feels like doing things like this adds fuel to the fire to that side or to that group of people, and they're like, oh, you fucking like you did this thing to us, when they don't realize that they were the instigators or the starters of all of this stuff.
Of course.
So but even if they are, I wonder how effective, like every time something like that happens, that we just hit the delete button on people and then force them into like this very like dark corner of the internet, and then they fester there.
And they can radicalize, sure.
Yeah.
But like for major celebrities, I don't think something like cancel culture is real. Like
interesting.
I've
never heard that take before.
So like in like fringe cases, it might work. Like sure, Roseanne Barr.
Yeah,
sure,
I forgot
she
about
was
that one, yeah.
canceled, but like her career was over pretty much anyway.
Yeah.
But like look at someone like Louis C.K. who is canceled for horrendous acts and now is still going back on doing shows and no one's saying anything. Like and the dude was masturbating in front of people without asking. Like there's no polite way to put that.
Yeah.
There's no consequences for some people.
There's no consequences unless there's actual jail time for most part for a lot of the rich.
I wonder like so I guess let me ask, do you think it is okay for someone like Louis C.K. to be back on tour and like be back doing like what he was doing, or do you think that he should like not do that anymore?
I think if there was a chance for like where he actually apologized and like came on and told people like, hey, and showed some real remorse. We got like a half-baked apology and
yeah.
then disappeared for like 6 months and then was just back on.
We're back in
floor.
it, boys.
Yeah, nothing changed.
I could be wrong about this. I might be mixing up another misconduct story because there were a lot of them.
There still are.
Like I was understanding that at least some of the victims, I guess, had kind of like said, okay, I forgive him at least.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, what is the bar for an apology, or like what like when is it? What is enough, or what is like the thing that we go, okay, cool, like you've served your time, or like.
I feel like it depends, like obviously on the case and severity or whatever, but like more than just like a half-assed apology and disappear for 6 months, or maybe even just be like, look, I'm a millionaire, I don't really need to keep doing this, and what I did to these people is horrible, and people who've gone through similar experiences might be thinking, oh, well, he got away with this, so now I can't go to any of these shows or anything.
Yeah.
At like what point does it stop becoming, what does the perpetrator have to do to like make it right to just the victims to come back, and what point is it like, what do you have to do for society, really?
So yeah, I mean I get a little concerned because I don't think I do or say anything like, offensive is a bad word because you're gonna offend people, but I don't think I've done anything worthy of being canceled. I doubt that I ever will, but I always fear about like accidentally doing something like that. And then if that's the case, then it's one of those situations where I'm like, okay, well, I know in my heart of hearts that I didn't mean to do whatever happened, but now I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean to do that, like this is like my bad. But if people still don't forgive me as a society, then I'm just like, well, shit, like do I just, like it's a sticky situation, I feel like.
But like, what are people really getting canceled for? It's not just for like just being like offensive, it's for like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, it's for slurs, it's for sexual assaults. Like, I don't think it's very hard to go through life and not get into conspiracy theories like that are against certain groups of people, or to not sexually assault someone. Those aren't exactly difficult concepts.
Sure, like I'm not sexual assaulting anyone. Like like as long, man. I okay. So something I talked about last time too, and I'm bringing it up again because I feel like I have to do it every fucking time because people on the internet are people on the internet. I'm going to say things that sound very like right argumentative, or like people that you probably heard on like on the right, or Republicans or conservatives or whatever. Yeah. You like use this as a thing of like an excuse or whatever. I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm using it as like, what if this happens? So I prefaced it by saying, so
it's a point of view in our society. It's 100% a valid point of view. Like
I don't know.
It's a point where it's like, who's actually getting canceled and for what, or how much of it is just like screaming that someone's being canceled, even if they're not really getting canceled.
That's true. That happens a lot.
Like in the Gina case, she got fired from Disney, sure. Next day, already had a movie deal. Like, can you say you're canceled if you're back in?
Yeah, I don't think I would call her canceled at all. Like
her contract was canceled.
Yes,
sure.
that's about it.
That's about as canceled as she got.
Which is, and man, I almost want to be like, I like that situation more than her being like, we cancel you, or we cancel, like you did a really bad thing, so now you don't get to work, no one wants anything to do with you. I don't know. I feel like there's a kinder, kind sounds very like, haha, rainbows and unicorns, but like I hope I'm making my point here. Is like, I feel like there's a way to like reprimand these people, but not exile them.
Yeah,
I like, they should feel that pain of like making a mistake like that. Mistakes need to have consequences. Not saying that, but like I feel like every time they do it and they get exiled, they they are away from good information or full information. Like the riots thing, like that shit only happened because a bunch of people got pushed to a place with the internet where they literally they got pushed to a place where they thought factually that the election was rigged. And it's just like, damn it, if you weren't and you just actually paid attention to other, or you were exposed to other information, you wouldn't have gotten there.
But like the problem is a lot of those people were radicalized on like Facebook and Twitter. Like that's not like far reaches of the internet. It's also these companies aren't handling problems like the QAnon conspiracy that like led to that in a lot of ways. They're not handling them correctly. Like when you're letting a conspiracy like QAnon or what led to it before Pizzagate like spread on the internet, there's going to be consequences. QAnon's killed a bunch of people. Pizzagate has had multiple people break into that, or at least one guy I know of broke in there, shot up the place. Yeah. One guy broke in and tried to set it on fire. Like, and these media companies, because that's what they are at this point. They're like more than platforms.
Yeah,
they're full. Media. Yeah. They have some responsibility to handle this false information being out there.
I feel like a lot of companies are actually doing that. Like I've noticed that on like Twitter, YouTube's gotten very heavy-handed with it, which I think is necessary. And so far, I haven't seen any like abuse of that system yet. But it's one of those things where it's like, if like the fact that I'm even saying, like if I say COVID and I say COVID enough in my video, underneath my video will be a little thing that's like, hey, here's some facts about COVID. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on up there, but like if you want like what's happening or what the CDC says, like here you go. Which I think that's perfect.
That sounds like a great idea. Or like when Twitter puts like the little things, like when people brought fake facts or when the president like had things, just a little thing like, hey, this is in dispute or whatever. Like just give people that like, hey, there is this off ramp. Facebook is like pretty bad at it, I feel like.
I haven't noticed anything on Facebook yet. Now that you say that, you're right.
You get some on Facebook, but I feel like they pull from a lot of very biased sources. Both far left and far right. Like
I feel like it's tough to find like a unbiased source though. Like
I mean every source has inherent biases to some extent. But like, 20, 30 years ago we all had an idea of what was a fair news source. Yeah. In the 60s, Walter Cronkite was considered the most respectable man in America and most trusted. Like
I wonder though, like if so, like I use CNN as like a example because I remember when I was growing up, I in my head I always knew like, okay, Fox, like that's right. I never put CNN in a left or right place. Like it in my head as a kid who slightly understood like politics or whatever. I always thought CNN seems like the balanced one, the one in the middle. But I wonder if that was the case, or if the fact that they really never have been, or if they were and that shifted somewhere along the line. And if that's the case, then people that are trusted at one point can not be trusted later. So
absolutely. I mean, I feel like CNN was always like made to be like a moderate left source, but I feel also part of the 24-hour news cycle that we live in
probably bad.
Makes it so you have to fill your cycle with information. And so what ends up happening is you have to cater to your audience and you fill that time with usually what's ends up being opinion shows.
Right.
Like they might be like some, reporting like Rachel Maddow or whatever, but mostly it's like, or it's still Rachel Maddow. It's just people talking their opinions or like Tucker Carlson or something like that. Like they're just talking opinions but that's where people are taking for news sources. It's not them necessarily just like getting biased news. It's just that them don't have time and they're just oh, I can watch, Colbert and get the news.
That whole thing was always weird when, God, why am I pulling a blank on his name?
Like Jon Stewart?
Yes, Jon Stewart, where like he constantly had to fight that battle. It was like, dog, I'm on Comedy Central. Yeah. Like it's just like every time someone like any of these, like I'm on Comedy Central making fun of politics. Like if like you and I are not the same. Exactly. So it's just like
he was not a pundit.
No,
he was a comedian.
Yeah.
But
my thing though is I'm seeing places like YouTube now that tends to be where I try to garner a lot of information. Now sometimes that ends up being like from CNN's channel or from Fox channel or from like different, but it also ends up being from people like Philip DeFranco, and like there are other people on the internet who are essentially taking that place now for me, like of the news. And I feel like that's better, but it also means that I have to put in way more work as a viewer, because you're like, okay, well, I gotta watch this. Okay, all right, cool. That's his take. No, I gotta watch this. Okay, cool. All right, that was like it is a lot more work, but
it feels like it's a never-ending struggle, and it kind of is, because it feels like you can always find a news source or
that's true.
Or if you're in like text printing or text media, there's always like, oh, this is from a different country and that can be translated or whatever, and it's like at a certain point it's just exhausting. We're in information overload.
Yeah.
And at some point, I think some people's brains just break.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know I personally have like taken a more hands-off-ish approach to social media now. Like when I say social media, I mean like Instagram, like Facebook. I don't post a lot usually. And I think I made a post a long time ago where I was like, listen, the post you're about to see from me, or like, hey, episode's coming up, or like YouTube video, like that's literally gonna be it, because I don't. Every now and then I'll post up like things that I think are important in my life, but that's it. I don't scroll, man. Like it's not.
It's just a time killer.
It's not even just a time. I think it's a fucking soul killer, man. Like I feel like I mean, it's brutal. Like you're not supposed to have all of that being like injected into your brain.
I mean, that's why doom scrolling is a word, right?
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
Especially like if you are, I felt like a lot of ways like on like January 6th, that was like the worst day ever for doom scrolling, because anywhere you turned, it was just horrible shit, and it's just
I remember constant and I now that you say that, I broke and I did it. I saw what was happening, and I was like, oh well, I'm probably gonna have to talk about it on podcast, so like I gotta tune in. And then like I remember clicking on a live video, and I had that playing in my pocket while I was working, and I just had that listening. I was like, motherfucker! Like literally like halfway through that day, I was like, I don't feel well, or like I'm not happy. Like, and I was like, shit.
I think there was a part of that day where I literally just went to the bathroom and just like stared at videos, and I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe what was happening. Like, obviously, we saw that there was like posts online for months and all. It's like saying this was gonna happen. I didn't think it was actually gonna happen. But
I feel like at this point now, anytime I see something like that, I'm just gonna go, that might happen. Like, like there's nothing that's too wild anymore. But
it truly can happen here.
Yeah,
and in a lot of ways, it has. Like similar insurrections have happened in American history. So, like, I guess it's not too surprising. But it happens.
I guess a lot of those people, they already went on trial and were, I guess they were found not guilty, or I don't remember how that. I know like for the like most of the people that were caught in there, like they didn't do any time or anything like that.
I think a lot of them are out just on bail right now. I don't think trials have really been happening, because the court system takes,
That's there was something I heard, or maybe I think it was in line with Trump's trial. I think that's
Oh yeah, I mean Trump was 100% not going to get
Senate.
There's no way.
Every time someone was like, oh, they got him, I'm like, dog, that's not. I mean, it's not how this works.
In a lot of ways, Democrats are pretty ineffective at anything.
Really? You think so?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like there's a lot of problems with like the left, or not the left, but with liberals, where it's like they want the power to govern, but they don't really know what to do with it. It's very much like the dog with the mailman. They're always chasing, but never know what to do when they actually get there.
So, I wonder. I guess the issue is how if once they do get there, because I mean right now I guess we're in a situation where they are there.
They have all three branches.
They have it, like so. I'm curious to see
2 branches. They don't have the Supreme Court, but they have both the House, Senate, and the White House pass whatever they want.
Yeah, but my question becomes: should they?
I mean, Republicans do with impunity.
I don't think that's a solid reason to do the same. So I think you should fix things that need to be fixed, obviously. Like
sure.
Like
but both parties have a different idea though of what's broken inherently, right?
True.
So when Republicans were last in during the majority after 2016, they passed tax cuts that helped middle class Americans for a finite amount of time, and upper class Americans and corporations for an infinite amount of time. Democrats have been in power for a month, and they've done an impeachment. They have fought back and forth whether $2,000 or $1,400 is enough for the American people. Like, what are they doing?
I mean, part of me wants to be like, well, these things take time. Like, if you took the time from the initial push for the $600 stimulus thing that happened recently to the time that it actually got through, they still haven't hit that point yet. Yeah. So it's like I want to be a little bit more like lenient on, like, all right, take your time. My issue is if you take all the time and you still fuck it up. I'm like, if you take all this time to fix this thing and you still release it and it's trash, like, now I'm upset.
I can't even give them the benefit of the doubt on time when Joe Biden literally said before Georgia, vote for Warnock and Ossoff and we will immediately vote for $2,000 in your pocket. How in the world can you say that and then be like, oh, well, we're only going to get $1,400 because 600 plus 1,400 is 2,000. Yeah. It's because that's how math. Yeah. And then go, oh, but we're going to fight about it now for another month. Like, how do you do that? I'm not a big fan of Republican politicians, right? Policies, I understand. Republican politicians, on the other hand, I don't necessarily understand a lot of them. But you have to give him credit. Mitch McConnell knows how to work a Senate. Yeah. He always has everyone in line 100%. Schumer has no power like that.
I guess it might be because it takes a type of personality to do that. Sure. And I feel like people that are on the left or liberal, that share like liberal ideals, that's less likely. But
I mean,
I struggle to think of like someone in that ideological space that I'm like, okay, this person understands people and like can like motivate and like influence them to do things. Like I don't know.
I mean, we also saw like a whole generation of Democratic politicians wiped out during the Obama years. So like we're dealing with older, ineffectual Democrats who are used to a game from 20 years ago because the people who should have been growing up and taking their spots didn't because they got wiped out by Tea Party wave.
I guess, and there's also like a new wave too. Like there's newer politicians, but they're still very green, and they don't have a lot of like pull yet.
It takes time to build those relations. Yeah, and so we're kind of looking at a Democratic Party with like an older head that doesn't, I don't feel like really have a grasp of how politics is played these days, and a younger class that's coming in and is more radical, but don't have the pull to get the party to go that way. I feel like Republicans are usually better at staying together because it's kind of how the right usually is. The left is always known for infighting. Yeah. But Republicans and the right in general have always been very well at working together and knowing that if they get power, they can figure out their middle place. Where Democrats and the left in general feel like if they get power, then they have to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah. My issue, and this hasn't really been a thing in policy or law. Yeah, what's up?
No, nothing. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
No, okay.
Keep doing your thing. I'm just hanging out here.
Okay. You feel free to jump in whenever you want. By the way,
hey, like I said, I'm using this as information gathering. I'm just filling up empty filing cabinets in my head right now because he won't talk to me like this normally. Yeah. So
I mean, we usually don't have time at work to do smoke breaks. And during a smoke break to go into
this. This is true. And then the other time we hang out, it's just like let's drink too much and then
just gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so this just comes from talking to people. Steph Galaxy, this is kind of in relation to the long 3-hour conversation you and I had with another one of our friends 2 nights ago. But love him to death. He's a great guy. You guys know who that is?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right.
Hi, Stefan. He said hi, so
okay, yeah, that's fair.
I gotta say hi back.
Also, real quick, I guess. If you guys are throwing comments in there, if you highlight, if you like an @Joe or at just Joe or of course, now he appears.
He just texted me.
Oh yeah.
Chaos texted me and said, "Look more bored." So I'll try my best.
All right. That's okay. Now everything's added up. The laugh.
That was the laugh.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. Now we're
There
here.
it is. My fear or concern or whatever you want to put, insert word, with a lot of left politicians is that they do they in my opinion make two major flaws. The first is they don't care about their opposition's position. It's more of like, I have this idea, I have this thing, I have this policy. It is all like everything about it is correct. Mm-hmm. There are no flaws. Push it through. It needs to happen now. And I'm just like, that's not going to work. That's not like the way our system. Granted, right now, I mean, everything is kind of one-sided, so that could work. But normally, that's not how that works. That's the first flaw. And then the other flaw is I guess that they're kind of the one and the same, but like it almost feels like everyone else be damned for whatever thing I want to happen. And, sure. and that, in my opinion, is like how this loop of like, oh, you have these like far right conservatives that get riled up by laws or things that are trying to get pushed because no one has even given them a chance to like, I don't know, be a part of a conversation, regardless of whether they're wrong or not, like, or their ideas are bad or not. It's just like simply by having them at the table helps. Like it makes things like that not happen. Yeah. And I don't know why that seems like such a hard concept to get. Like it seems like a pattern I see over and over and over from that.
I don't know if necessarily you can say that's a part of just the left or just of American politics as a whole, because you see it on both sides of the aisle. 100% in American politics. How many of Trump's agenda ever got voted on by Democrats? Almost none. How much of Obama's did? Almost none. By Republicans, almost none. Neither party's willing to talk. Over the last 50 years, we've seen that the Congress has become more polarized as American society has become more polarized. Yeah. There's less moderates in this country, and there's less moderates in Congress because those people can't win primaries anymore. There's no way someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to go over and talk to AOC and try to make policy. These people are just not going to communicate. If you want this bicameral two-party system to work, you have to have someone who is able to make that cross. And right now there's just not enough people in this Congress willing to do that.
I agree. I would consider myself people hate even thinking moderate or centralist or people like that. I get why people dislike that stance. It feels very lukewarm. But I don't think it's lukewarm. In my personal opinion, I think that is a stance where a lot of action can happen. The issue is people have to get their heads out of their own asses and understand that some concessions are going to have to happen in order for anything to move forward.
Absolutely.
Man, I want to get Stephen on to talk about this because we spoke for we finished playing board games at maybe 1 or 12. I left there at 3:50, and we were talking about trans rights and policies and things of that nature. And I was just I never disagreed with his position, but it was one of those things where it's you're pushing forward with any what you want means that someone is getting hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody is about to lose by doing this.
That's the nature of politics, though.
Sure. But my thing is, you need to figure out a way to address it, even if you can't fix it. Because, that's somebody is going to lose. That's just life. But you got to figure out a way to at least word it, or the rhetoric has to be there so that the person who's about to lose something from that policy doesn't go off and make, absurd conspiracy stuff and then rile up a whole bunch of other people, and then you have these eruptions every now and then. I would like to see less of those. That is very important. I would like to see less of January 6th, I guess.
I honestly don't think that's going to be possible in the current America.
Really?
I think we're seeing an acceleration of those types of events happening. Over the last 20-30 years, we've seen extremism on both sides go up drastically, but especially far-right extremism, and these types of things are going to continue, unfortunately.
I mean, I guess there's both far right and far left,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, but like DHS just had a report out like on Friday that was like 75% of terrorist attacks in America last year were far-right attacks.
Wow.
Like you cannot, there's no like comparing that.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing 3 times the amount of violence.
Yeah, one of the things I've always I guess thought is that the right's violent acts tend to be very violent. Like it tends to be like the extreme, whereas like the left's it's bad, but it's not like people aren't dying at the same rate as it is for the other side. So
there's no Timothy McVeigh really in American left. Like there's no one on that level.
But the counter to that though is like, and this is what most right people say, is like it's hard to say that when a lot of the media that you would read this stuff from is left. Like so like Twitter left. Like Facebook I don't think is. But
Facebook is right.
Yeah,
sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like Facebook I wouldn't say.
Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire is
they
like all in
live
like the top 10 news sources every day in America.
But I've watched media sources that like, and I guess there's nothing wrong with like saying this stuff, but I like when it comes to video games, like Polygon, like every media source, YouTube, Twitch, like
everyone has a bias.
But it's there seems to be like the bigger ones, barring like excluding Facebook, are all left, and that's something that I don't think people on the left even want to acknowledge, because if I was a conservative and I saw that, I'd be losing my goddamn mind. Like I understand why that's like a thing that is very frustrating. So whenever that's brought up and it's immediately dismissed, I'm like, stop doing that. Like that is a very genuine, like important thing that should be talked about, but it seems like
there's absolutely an inherent bias on a lot of social media sources towards liberalism and leftism. But you also have to see in a lot of these media sources, with the exclusion of Facebook, they're mostly used by younger people who tend to be more liberal anyway.
Sure.
So like it does happen. It's, I'm sure, incredibly frustrating. I'm no liberal, and it's frustrating for me to see liberals out here celebrating like random little things. It's 100% ridiculous. But I also think the right likes to scream that like they're like canceled or can't post anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a difference between you can't like post anything and you can't post, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Which is like part of the problem here. Like we see like them saying like, oh I got a bunch of all my followers got banned. Like Tucker Carlson, like not long after 6, like complained on Twitter, I lost a bunch of followers. They were all like QAnon people got banned after the 6. Like these are people who we lost. But then that becomes a culture fight of I'm losing followers, and it's like, yes, but you're losing followers who are violating TOS already. So like absolutely there's no perfect moderation online. There's never going to be, and I'm sure it's frustrating for conservatives, but like when there's conservative only media spaces, we see what happens and they become hellscapes. I mean, anyone been on Parler or Telegram? It's a nightmare.
I've wanted to, but then I was just like, I should. Part of me, I'm like, I feel like I owe it to myself to at least go there and see what's happening there, so I can form an opinion. I don't know. Have you actually?
I have both a Parler and a Telegram account.
Okay.
I've been in various very extreme right-wing groups.
Okay.
And it's just absolute batshit misinformation.
Interesting.
And it's all sorts of misinformation. Stuff like Joe Biden's a body double. All sorts of COVID vax stuff, of course.
Michelle Obama is a secret man clone from a different planet.
Yeah, exactly. And like the new conspiracy recently has been that like March 4th, Trump's going to be president again.
My dad was talking about that.
What?
You know about this shit.
Okay. I want to get into that, but before I want to address this comment here, I can't see the name. Was it Supre?
Sup,
93. Biggest issue with the left is they overpromise and underdeliver, and then think that taking the high road, saying that the right won't work bipartisan. I would say that is a problem, but I wouldn't say that's the problem with just the left. I feel like even in recent times, I can very much remember, even like there was that whole thing where Trump denied that initial bill and was like, 600 is not enough. Yeah. In the guise of being like, just to say like, well, we tried to give you guys more money and like they wouldn't work with us.
Yeah,
I was just like, dog.
He refused to have a meeting.
Yeah, I was like,
Democrats.
I was like, dog. That's not the same thing. So like, it happens on both sides. I think in very general, simplistic terms, I think the left has an issue with like almost a superiority complex where they just assume that everyone is right or everyone is like on their side, and every idea they have that everyone around them also shares that same opinion. Like I talked about this last week with AJ about like, I know Republicans and like conservatives that they're afraid to even talk about their ideas because they're surrounded. Most workspaces are very left-ish leaning, slightly. So like if you have anything that diverges from that, you're just like, fuck, I can't. My voice is irrelevant. Like my voice is dangerous to me. Like I can't say anything.
I'm going to make a slight quibble here. I think this is a difference actually between liberals and the left.
You're probably right.
I think when you get to like the farther left, they're a little bit more willing to listen to right-wing opinions and all. Liberals have very much a lot of this whole "my shit don't smell" idea. Like, to put it like bluntly, like it's very much of a "I can't do wrong. Obama was the greatest president," that type of shit. Yeah. Like, where it's just like, no, you have to realize that there's flaws in your own ideology. Yeah. Obama was the porter in chief. Yeah, like, come on,
the porter in chief, like that. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so what is this thing?
Oh, it's the May the 4th. Yeah, March the 4th.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so this is a fun one. So the idea is that after the original inauguration date in America was March the 4th.
Okay.
It was moved by FDR. Grant was the last legitimate president at the 18th president because during his presidency, stay with me, I promise. It gets dumber.
Just like, what the fuck?
So during his presidency, the District of Columbia incorporated as a municipal district. A lot of these people take incorporation means it became a corporation. So therefore, the United States is not a government, it is a corporation. So Trump can swoop in, have Biden arrested, and become president again, becoming the 19th president of the United States. This grows out of
I imagine seeing this on like a whiteboard. Somebody's just
if you had one, we can go hard on a whiteboard right now. This belief like comes out of like sovereign citizen movement, which is like the Amon Bundy type people. Yeah. I don't know if you know them.
I've heard that before, but
they're the people who like keep trying to take over like wilderness like areas because they don't want to pay taxes on cows.
Nice.
And I'm serious. It's land right tax problems.
Jesus.
Like, it's not necessarily like I'm saying. Like, I should preface this with, I have no problems with right ideas. I have a problem with far-right ideas, which cannot coexist in a peaceful society anymore.
Yeah.
When you're promoting just complete like destruction of government or bombing buildings or assassinating people, you just can't work with those type of people anymore.
I agree. Those type of people, like they don't serve anything well. Like it should. I don't know. Those people, unless their ideas can change, like I personally, I don't think they have a place in like our society or whatever. But
I mean, we're seeing like those type of beliefs are like part of QAnon, and we're seeing QAnon's 36% of the Republican Party.
That seems really high.
Yeah. I could double check.
I would struggle to like.
It was like 10% of the American population, and then 36% of Republican parties into QAnon, or at least QAnon adjacent beliefs.
I think it maybe. But
that's the problem because QAnon's also an arch conspiracy. So like it's why like
that's when I hear or see numbers like that, I go, let me see that study because let me see that survey or whatever, because it's like. This sounds like some shit that you went on a like tear, not you specifically.
Yeah, of course.
Like whoever's putting out the survey or the study, you went on a thing and you formulated the study in a way that this is you got the results you want. Because that seems like an absurd number of people. Like, I
mean, but we're seeing like how are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Bobbitt making it into the?
I'm not familiar with.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Republican congressman or congresswoman, I believe, from North Carolina, or maybe Georgia, one of the two,
somewhere in those three,
state, who like posted things about like Jewish space lasers, has gone on multiple QAnon podcasts in the past. Before she was in Congress, was like talking about how we had to assassinate public officials. People like this are getting elected. There has to be people supporting them.
Yeah, that's wild. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, Colorado. Laura Bobbitt is from Colorado. She owned like a gun.
Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah. Okay.
A gun-themed restaurant.
A gun-themed restaurant.
Okay. I'll be honest with you, and we can get into guns if you want to.
Oh, I love guns.
Same. Like I was like, I like guns. I would go to a gun-themed restaurant. That sounds awesome.
Here's the thing. I love guns. I think America has a fetishization of guns, and that's too much. I will 100% go out. Let's go shooting.
Yeah.
Like, let's go do that. You do not need an AK-47 to go to the convenience store or whatever, or any sort of rifle like that.
Right.
Like,
you do need a sword, though. You do need the mandated public sword, whatever.
Honestly, I feel probably safer with more people with swords than guns. I know I know no one can turn the safety off a sword.
Yeah.
Plus, you might get to see cooler street fights.
Yeah. Oh my god! Never mind. I'll show you that video later. There's a dude like in a subway, and he just had a katana. He just happened to have one, and then like this woman was getting robbed, and he was just like, "All right, shit!" Like he just and it was. I was like, "Is this staged?" I was like, "What the fuck is this?" But yeah,
I'm glad to know this is very pro gun, pro sword.
Yeah. Totally pro sword.
Yeah.
I would say that there's definitely a fetishization. I don't know. Word's hard. Of guns. I don't know how you fix it at this point though. Like it feels like any time it's pulled back even just a little bit, or it's even talked about pulled back a little bit, people lose their goddamn minds, and it's just like. What I think it would make sense is like, okay, you do it gradually until there becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want people to be like, hey, okay, let's take the Australian approach. Like, fucking.
Oh, that will not work.
I was like, that's not going to
cause a war.
Yeah, I was like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But I think that adding more restrictions on what there already are, that's one of the things that I keep hearing people like, we already have all these things. I'm like, yes, but clearly. Like that's not fixing things.
I mean, there's some like simple things we could do, like closing the gun hole loophole, where you could buy a gun. I could go buy a gun at a gun show. Mm-hmm. No one knows I have the gun. I have no paperwork. No one has to ever know.
So from what I understand, that's not the case. But I mean,
you can have paperwork, but like it depends also state to state. But a lot of states, you don't have to register the gun then.
I do know that's a state to state thing. Which okay. People on the right are gonna hate me for this, but that is a major problem, I think, in the United States. Yeah. This whole like, this state has this thing, and this state has this thing, and this state. It's like, I get it. Like the states should have some sovereignty, but I think that there are certain issues that should be exempt from that, and I think gun laws should be one of those things. You should not have gun laws that are different in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. That doesn't make sense. Like It's like they should be the same across.
And then you see the problem that you have in Chicago, where the gun laws in Illinois are super strict. All the states around it are super lax. So they just go buy guns in the other states and bring them over.
And I'm just like
guys, that's not helping.
There are other issues like that, but I think guns is definitely one of those things where it's like
guns, healthcare, like that type of thing.
Yeah, that stuff shouldn't be different in different states.
Things where it really matters, life and death decisions should not just be a hodgepodge of laws. We can have some consistency.
God, I don't know.
You guys, states can keep education. Sure. I mean, for the most part. I mean, Texas.
Yeah. I mean,
they're about to die anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because so many people moved there. So many people did.
Yeah.
They moved there and they're like, yes, awesome. And then fucking weather was like, all right, fuck you guys.
I did feel like a tinge of Schadenfreude about that when I saw there was an article about Elon Musk saying I'm so mad my factory or something my factories don't have power.
I'm like,
really?
You went there. That's where you were in a state where that's not a problem.
California has its own problems with power grid. I mean, the whole country's power grid's a shit great. Show.
Yeah.
I mean, it was built 50, 60 years ago to last 50 years. Yeah. So this is going to continue happening.
Man. I don't, not to go super, I don't know if you have stuff. You said you mentioned you had some points or some stuff that you wanted to bring up. Or
yeah. I mean, this has been good so far.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. One of the things that I always am concerned about now, that especially when I'm watching back episodes now, I'm like, oh man, I never let that person get to that thing or whatever. So,
I mean, it's a fun one. It's a fun one.
Yeah.
Highly quotation, but we can get into some fun
dude,
stuff.
I'm down to get into very. I like talking about things that are very difficult to talk about. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
So
I came here to talk about fascism.
Okay.
Nice fun
one.
Nice fun Sunday topic.
Fun fascism. That's what it is. That'll get quoted.
Fun day fascism.
Fun day. Monday fun day.
The old FF.
FF.
So, because events like the 6th show that there's a huge fascist movement in the U.S.
I guess so. Before we get too super deep,
sure.
Let's describe fascism or define fascism. I should say first, because I will say that my understanding of it has shifted over the time, so it makes sense if we.
That I have a little something on if we want to go through a little bit.
Okay, we can. We also I have this thing here, and I can always pull up different shit. So if you have something that you,
I'm just going to do this. It's a long essay that's I think is the best one. I'm not going to go through the whole essay.
Sure.
We're just going to do some quick bullet points.
All right, let's hit it.
It's called Fascism by Umberto Eco.
Okay, that name sounds super familiar.
He was an Italian who lived under fascism in Italy. So probably knows a little bit about fascism. During Mussolini's reign, actually wrote an essay that won an award nationwide.
I feel like I've heard about him in some philosophy research that I've been doing. That name, I don't know. Maybe
he's one of the first people to try to define and go through fascism.
Okay.
So he wrote an essay as a child. Just want to give him a little backstory that won a nationwide contest about why a child should be willing to die for the nation.
Interesting. Okay.
But then after Italy fell, he started looking back and being no, this was wrong. This is why it was wrong. And then
good, you're good.
Okay, so there's some parts of it. There's 14 things that he says define fascism, but a fascist regime does not necessarily have to have all 14, because we can see that Italy, Spain, Germany, Japan were all fascist regimes in the 30s and 40s. They were very different from each other on how they got there and the reasons why. So the first one is a focus on traditionalism.
Okay.
Which is holding back to the better days that used to exist.
Yeah.
So we saw this in the Trump campaign with Make America Great, harking back to an era but we didn't really. But that's a loose example. I don't think Trump's a full fascist. I think he was a wannabe.
Yeah. But I think he was a wannabe about a lot of different things. I think he just wanted the position. He's a person that just wants to win and doesn't give a shit.
Eco wrote The Name of the Roses, Pleasure Bunch books on philosophy.
Okay, that's probably why I've heard that name. Awesome.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah. So
awesome. Who was that?
Dork of Night.
Dork of Night. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So because of the second point would be then a rejection of modernity.
Okay.
Because if you're trying to hold traditional values, you can't Yeah, you can't go back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, makes sense. The next is action for action's sake.
Okay.
So a lot of fascist street regimes had street fighting groups: the brown shirts, the black shirts, the blue shirts, depending on the country.
Okay.
So, and they would literally beat up opposing viewpoints in the street.
Interesting.
The SS came actually out of one of these groups.
Right.
The SA, I think, came out of one of these groups.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
I think it was brown, maybe?
Brown shirts is Germany, I believe. Or maybe brown shirts is Italy. Black shirts, either.
It was,
yeah. I think England had blue shirts with Oswald Mosley at the same time, who was English politician who was trying to raise a fascist regime in the 30s.
Nice.
Yeah. Any disagreement is treason.
Okay.
Because
that's a bad ideal, but okay.
I mean, absolutely. But tied to that is disagreement. The reason that brown shirts is German. Okay. The reason for that is disagreement comes from diversity.
Right.
And fascism can't have diversity. Because diversity allows for different opinions, different views.
Right.
You need a centralized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually they come from an appeal to the middle class. Okay. So a lot of they'll try to frame themselves as a workers movement and all, but it'll mostly be filled with art, in earlier times artisans, that type of thing.
I mean, look at North Korea.
I mean, North Korea is not fascist; they're authoritarian, but they're they're an authoritarian left regime. I'd say because it's built off it's communism with the Jewish idea is built off communism, but it's built in an authoritarian dictatorship now.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
There's an obsession with outsiders in fascism. So we see this in Germany, obviously, with multiple ways. We see this in the QAnon movement with I mean, they say similar things that about Nazis that they said about Democrats even. Yeah. So
take that tweet, for instance.
Yeah. A shifting of the rhetorical focus. So less you can't really argue with fascism because they'll change what the argument always is, and they'll just keep turning it.
Okay.
If that kind of makes sense.
So it does. What I'm concerned about is I'm hearing things so far, two things that are somewhat similar to the way that I discuss politics. Okay. So it's just I'm finding some parallels, I guess, if that makes any sense.
We're almost through. Let's not get through the list, and then let's go through the ones you feel and then we can.
Okay.
Because obviously we can all hold some views that might be held in fascist ideology,
right? But
just because you hold a view that doesn't mean you're a fascist.
Right. He's damn it.
I was damn it, Joe's a fascist.
I almost got him.
Yeah, I'm not going to come on the show and slam.
No.
No, we're not going to do that.
No. So, sorry, can you go back, not the full explanation, but the quick bullet points again?
Yeah, sure. So, we got traditionalism, rejective modernity, action for action's sake.
Okay.
Disagreement is treason. Okay. Disagreement is diversity.
Disagreement is diversity. Okay, yes. No, all right.
Appeal to the middle class.
Okay.
Obsession with outsiders.
Okay, so I think that was the last one that we got to so far, yes. Right? Okay.
Oh no, we got to a shifting of rhetorical focus, but
okay, no, that was big too. So for me, I tend, this may be a different definition of appealing to the middle class. Yeah. Most of the stances and I guess ideas that I champion or I talk about tend to start there. I understand that both extremes on that line exist. You're gonna have the wealthy, you're gonna have the poor, but I feel it makes more sense to make things that start from the middle and then wave out, if that makes any sense. You see what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but how does that affect where we're at in America, where there's a widening wealth gap and the middle class is almost obliterated?
What do you mean by obliterated?
The middle class is at one of its smallest points it has been in decades.
Right. So if you were looking at this, it's more like a bell, where there's more people in poverty, there's more wealthy people, but there's no one in the middle.
Right.
Okay. So
well, it's not even like it's a bell. There's a lot of people that are poor. There's not a ton of people really that are rich, and it's a steep curve down at this point in America. The wealth distribution in this country is just out of control.
Really bad.
I mean, people worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, come on.
Yeah. It's hard for me to tell a person who's done a lot of things to. So it's hard for me to tell someone who's like worked for a business. Like I take what's that guy? GT Dave, I think is the dude. He's like the guy that like really popularized kombucha in the United States. Mm-hmm. But this is a guy who's like genuinely done like a lot of hard work and done it very responsibly. Yeah. And he's one of those top high percenters. It's one of those things where it's like, how can I tell this guy you have a obligation to not be that or to be less of that?
I mean, I think there's a certain point, there's a moral obligation to be like, I have enough money where I can never spend all this money. I could never use all this money. And I'm willing to have all this money and look at the world and say, there are how many millions of people that starve every year?
Sure.
Like, there's a moral obligation to people around you. And yes, you might have made millions, billions.
Sure.
I'm not even talking really about millionaires. Like, sure, you can have you can have hundreds of millions, whatever. When you get to billions, yeah, that's just absurd.
I think that is a huge like difference between even a multimillionaire and a billionaire. I agree. It's just like, who do you have an obligation more to? Those people or your family or like your future generations? Like, it's like, I understand my issue with that is not the fact that they would choose then to harbor all that money and then it kind of trickles throughout their generations, because what ends up happening is you have people like Trump who like they didn't start off in the same race that everyone else did and now they're super far ahead. The issue I have is those people who are like Donald, where they get a thing, like they get a head start.
Yeah.
The problem isn't the head start. The problem is the mindset of somebody not recognizing that they had that. Like, I agree with you. They should it should be normal and accepted, or I wouldn't say expected is a hard thing, but like it should be normal that those people donate more, or like that money is used to help others. But I don't want it to be mandated. That's where it gets like the line for me. Like, it's like who am I to tell you what to do with what you've earned?
But like in a lot of these ways, it's not necessarily like, did Elon Musk work X amount times harder than you and me to make 180 billion?
Maybe not. I definitely not. I don't know. But like, I've not done any research into like how he came into his wealth.
Oh, to be honest with you, I can give you a quick little rundown. His father owned an apartheid emerald mine in South Africa.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he literally went to school with emeralds in his shoes.
Nice.
In college. And then ended up becoming I think he started PayPal. And then sold that, yeah. And then bought into Tesla, bought out the original two owners, and then claimed himself as the founder.
I remember seeing something about like the other two owners of Tesla. I was like, I've never heard that there were other two owners of Tesla, and I'd never dug into it any further than that. But that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like, so he came from a place of essentially of white supremacy. Apartheid emerald mine in South Africa is not going to be a good egalitarian place.
Yeah.
So that's where his starting money is from.
Okay.
He's now $180 billion. His entire life has been made off profits of other people. At what point does it become, you need to give some of this back to the world? You're worth more than some countries. You need to help people. And like, I'm sure people will say, well, he's getting us to space, or he's like doing like that type of research. But that's not him. It's his money, sure. But like, those are vanity projects.
Yeah.
That's not helping the people who are dying out there.
No. Yeah. I mean, things like Tesla, I kind of go, cool, dude. Like, this is at least some sort of step towards like helping emissions and whatnot. Like, all right, fine. Like, it's very easy for me to see that and go, this makes sense. As I can see good coming from this. SpaceX, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
and then there's of course problems with like Tesla, like where they go, like how they're getting their ingredients.
Yeah, like I know there's some issues with the batteries and whatnot, but like I'm curious as to. I guess I'm noticing a pattern in the way I'm thinking. Is like I'm curious as to whether or not that's a legitimate concern, but I haven't done the research to figure that out yet. So,
I mean, when he's saying things like in response to the coup in Bolivia, we'll coup where we want to because Bolivia has the largest supply of cobalt in the world, which is needed to make Tesla batteries. That's a little questionable. Like that. Come on.
Yeah. That's not good. It's definitely not a good look.
Yeah.
If at the very least.
Especially since he's from South Africa, saying America should.
Yeah.
There's a whole mess of issues there.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far off from like fascism. Do you think that at a certain point of wealth and power that just happens innately? Do you think that's like a human nature thing, where like once you amass enough influence and power, you're bound to lose sight of like a moral importance of like towards humanity or something of that nature?
Yes. 100%. I mean, we see this in other cultures, ancient cultures, where they thought that like pride was dangerous, and too much power was dangerous. Like in ancient Rome, they had these things called triumphs, for where if you did a giant battle or won a war, you would be caroled through Rome all day, told you're amazing, you're the hero, the savior of Rome. But they always had a person behind them every single day going, this is your best day ever. You're going to die after today, and no one will remember you. Because they knew that much power was corruptible. And we saw that because eventually, who ended up having a bunch of triumphs and taking over? Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
He had multiple triumphs, which was unheard of, but to his head, and he crossed the Rubicon and destroyed the Republic.
Yeah.
Power is dangerous. And I think as a society, and I think it might just be a fault of capitalism, we've forgotten that. That power is dangerous, and we just celebrate people who have collected and hoarded power and wealth.
I definitely think it's dangerous to celebrate those people. I think it's one of those things that when I see things like Bill Gates and like those, it's like celebrating. I wouldn't classify that as how I see them. It's more of like, yeah, okay, man, you got a lot of money. That's great. Let's look at your track record of like what that money has done. Has it been a net good or a net like loss? Like,
and Bill Gates is like a questionable story there. Like obviously he saved millions of lives in Africa.
Yeah.
Like that work is untouchable.
Sure.
The fact that somehow while donating all these billions, his wealth has only gone up over the same time. That's a little questionable.
Yeah.
That's like, how are you donating? You know, you said you're donating half your wealth and your wealth has doubled.
Yeah.
Like how?
I think the way that, not to say that these people aren't wealthy and that we're doing it wrong, but I think that the way that we calculate wealth might need to take a second look. Because like it seems as though like how many times have people heard about like companies that are like, oh cool, we broke even this year. Like, yep, we definitely did. We don't own that charity at all. We have no ties to that whatsoever. But yes, we like you see, like it's like those kind of things always come up, and I'm just like, well, if we keep doing this or like we keep seeing examples of this, why are we not like stopping this from happening?
I mean, in our current economic system, the way banks are even built generate wealth just by existing. Yeah. Just like you give a bank like $10,000, they just only have to keep like 1,000 of that and they can loan out the rest. But now there's $19,000 out in the world. Yeah. That's just a simple idea. Like that's a simple, easy thing. It just shows like the power of our own system to make money out of nothing.
That's not good. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you want to continue.
Yeah, well, there's only a couple more. So let's get through this. So we were on shifting of rhetorical focus. Right. Pacifism is trafficking with an enemy or with the enemy.
Okay.
Which makes sense
Yep.
with action for action's sake. You can't be a pacifist. Exactly. Popular elitism.
Okay.
Where-
That's kind of like what we were talking about before.
Exactly. Hero worship even into death. Where you want to, it was like one, like in Germany, for example, one of the most important things for Germans was to die in battle, to die for the fatherland. That type of idea where, and those people were honored among honors. Like, yes, obviously we have like a cemetery here, but we're not like posting pictures of them everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
It's the glory in battle,
the glory
of death. I mean, that's why the SS troops had, you know, skulls on their hats to glorify death.
Yeah.
3 more. Machismo Ism. So a focus on masculinity to a point where it's the only, like, one of the only ideals. Pretty self-explanatory in that one. Selective populism. So where you do things for the greater good, but only your greater good. So like you choose your group, and that's what gets benefits.
Yeah,
and everyone
no one else
gets prosecuted. Or, And the last one is a nice one from this was also used by what's his name? Guy who wrote, blank on his name, Orwell.
Gabe's face was just like, I don't know.
Hey, I would have got. Hey, Joel, I know George. He said something at the beginning. I would be like, "Oh, the George."
I couldn't think of a book, but I got his name first. Newspeak, the idea of words having like double meanings, or words saying one thing but meaning a totally different idea.
Okay.
Like over the gate of Auschwitz, like work shall set you free.
Okay.
When there was no amount of work that would set you free.
There's nothing
like that type of ideal.
Okay.
So those are like the 14 things that Umberto Eco at least says.
Okay.
I don't think necessarily all of them are bad. Like appealing to the middle class, it's 100% fine tactic.
I don't like saying that something that I do is a good tactic. Like, just because it's like, yeah, of course I would say that, you know, but like,
well, I think it's different between like people and politicians. Like, we're not a politician. So of course we should try to appeal to middle class, lower class, upper class. It's like just make friends and make acquaintances and all. But as a political message, obviously applying to a middle class or a perceived middle class is a powerful motivator.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. I guess like when I heard the word fascism, what appears in my head is like bits and pieces of that. Mm-hmm. I wonder is it possible to not encompass all of those things and still?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like
Umberto Eco put it like this way. Like the first fascist country was ABC. The second fascist country was BCD. The third one was CDE. A and C, or the first one and the third one are still fascists. They still have some shared traits, but looking from the outside, they are different.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like I mentioned at the beginning, like there's a lot of arguments for like, well, there's not arguments. Like it's obvious that Italy and Germany were fascists in World War II. There's arguments that Japan was. There's arguments for Spain was. And I'd like to say all 4 of those were fascist regimes. But if you look at them,
they're different.
Very different.
They're structured differently too.
Because fascism takes on the inherent characteristics, I feel like, of the country it's in.
That makes sense, yeah.
So like in Spain, we saw fascism that was still tied to the Catholic Church. And or in Italy, we saw fascism that was tied to a king still. And same with in Japan, we had the emperor. But in Germany, obviously, it was just the man of one man being Germany. It was Hitler.
Yeah.
But I feel like for American fascism, we see...
That's what I was about to ask you, like how that, like correlating that back into like the United States.
I think fascism in America comes from 2 areas. It comes from white supremacy, and it comes from evangelicalism. Radical evangelicalism.
Interesting. Okay.
Because like we see a lot of the crypto-fascist types in America. And that started with like someone like Father Coughlin back in the 30s, who was a huge radio preacher.
Yeah.
Sending out fascist news and fascist sermons on the radio. Like these things have been married. And it's horrifying to say, but kind of is how we have our religion in this country.
Yeah. I mean, I know people use this example all the time, but like it is on our money, and it's not. And some people are like, oh, it's just a generic God. I'm like, no, I think we all know like what religion is tied to that. And
yeah, absolutely. Though I think that was that like part of the like 50s adding God to everything pledge. Yeah. So that's like just the go against communism.
Yeah, I don't think that makes any sense. I've been very outspoken on my views when it comes to religion and laws and states and whatever. That which is funny enough, that's never the thing that people are upset with me about, which I think that's wild to me. I'm like, all right, cool, fine. Maybe more people are thinking that way than I thought. But
I mean, I have no problems with religion until you start weaponizing it.
Sure.
And I feel like a lot of evangelicals have.
Yeah, I mean, my issue with it is that, and I think that weaponizing can extend to financial and economic like hurt or harm that's being done to the people around.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just like that's, and to me that is like vile. Like I hate that like more than anything. But
I mean, prosperity gospel in America is probably one of the worst religious developments in world history.
It's so it's gross to watch.
Like it's just the exact opposite of everything in the Bible.
It's just like, God, man. But yeah, I guess more on like fascism in America. Like, do you think? Where do you think? Like, if you had to point out one central area for people to like, or the most important thing for us to fix or pay attention to when it comes to that, like where would one find that? Is that
I think that's partially why I want to be here. Is I think we need to inform people of the nature of American fascism. I think a lot of people have views that it can't happen here. Nothing like that could ever happen here.
Okay.
Especially before the 6th. A lot of people had views like that. But these things have happened here, and they can continue to happen here unless people are aware and we know. Because fascism doesn't require a majority. It requires people to be complicit and to go along with it. The last election before Germany had stopped having elections, the Nazi Party only got like 30-something% of the vote.
Yeah.
They didn't need the majority.
Yeah.
They just needed an in to get into power. So the more people think about it and the more people realize that there are problems with the American system as we have and what's actually happening. Because I feel like a lot of people look at like the QAnon stuff and it's like, well, where'd this come from? This doesn't make any sense. But these things have deep roots in American history and deep into just all of us.
So I guess this is the part where I ask you the impossible question of how do you fix that? Like,
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, there's no fixing.
Yeah.
The simple answer is I don't know. The harder answer is I think fascism is a part of late stage capitalism, and it comes about in capitalist societies where people are feeling isolated and left out.
Yeah.
So either we need to find a way to reach out to those people, or we need to figure out to solve the capitalist system we have.
I've thought about that. Like capitalism is one of those things that's like, it's very hard to remove from society without also, unless you have some way of like building a safety blanket for all the people that it's going to uproot.
Yeah.
So I
mean, that's the same in any political system uprising, right? It's someone is going to get left, unfortunately. I'm not saying like immediately, like tomorrow we should be the USSR or anything, but there's obviously steps we could start doing to helping people to make them feel like they're still part of this country. Like how much of Trump's rhetoric was, I'm speaking for the people who don't have voices in this country, and what he speak about. Yeah, locking up his opponents, and how he's been robbed, cheated, stolen. Everyone's weak.
It sucks that like that was where that went, because I think that ideal is not just valid but also like good. Like there are a lot of people that seem to get like steamrolled or looked over or bypassed when in not just our political system, but like in all kinds of different
the world.
The world. And so like giving those people a voice somehow or representing them, I think that's great. I think that's a good idea. The issue comes when like because like I can think of like people who were in the Republican Party or would classify themselves as conservatives, and like they don't want to lock up people. They just want a life that I guess is very different than something that's closer to like socialism. Like they want that feeling of like earning their way.
But you still had that under communist regimes. Like a lot of people still felt like their jobs were meaningful because they know they weren't like making a wasteful product or something.
Sure.
Or like they knew because of the central planning, you could see like where your work was going.
Right.
But in American system, like how many people, like all of us kind of have like jobs that feels like sometimes where I don't know what I'm doing is actually benefiting society in any way, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know necessarily my job feels worth it every day.
Yeah.
But I'm in a capitalist system,
for what I do, the way I think of it is not necessarily this. Well, okay, cool. I've done my best to like not tie the two, but it's fine.
I'm sorry, I'm not like trying.
No. You're not. The only reason I said that is just because like it's very roles, so. Yeah, it's very easy for someone to figure out like what I do, which is fine. Yeah. But essentially, I look at it as it is a service to people who need that thing.
Escape.
Yeah, like it's like allowing someone to have a thing, because I guess I've been in the situation where like I didn't have that thing, like I didn't have that escape, and you think for a while like, oh, okay, I'm better, or I'm stronger because I'm able to take life at face and like I'll tank it and like go through it or whatever. And that's bad. Yeah. It's very, very bad. So like I think I look at what I do as it is an overall good. Are there things about it that like aren't? Sure. I think like if you want to get to the like if you want to get very fine-tuned and very like a microscope there, like they're the way that those things are produced, how they're distributed, the secondhand market on those things, like these things are bad.
And that might just be because of our different positions. Because like where I'm at, my position, that's a non-small part about it is trying to get people the best way I can, make the most possible profit for the
That's
company.
fair. That's fair. Yeah.
That is not a job that's helping people.
That's fair.
But it is helping people in some ways because like sometimes it's just like, oh, I had a medical bill come up and that comes up and those stories break my heart.
Yeah, and it sucks. Like I hear those as well.
And but I gotta do my job.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think being in a capitalist system versus being in a communist system or socialist system or anything necessarily makes a job more or less meaningful. I think it's what the people around you and the people above you put into it.
I also think it has a lot to do with your perspective on that job too. Like two people can do the exact same job and one person can feel like it's meaningful and the other person cannot.
Yeah, sure. So. I mean, like, I guess that's what I'm just like saying. Like, it depends on the people around you also. Yeah. And I guess, of course, person to person.
Yeah.
It just depends. It's person to person. But I don't think in one system necessarily adds or removes work value. I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, as long as as long as the person has agency over what they do, or because like at the end of the day, if our jobs suck so much to the point that like it negatively impacts your day to day. I've never worked a job. Well, no, that's not true. I almost said I've never worked a job where like that was the case. But the moment I felt that was the case, I left that job immediately. I'll talk about that job. I don't give a shit. I don't care anything. I used to bank. Chase. It's fine. Like they fucking.
Well, as we said earlier,
exactly. I don't give a shit. Yeah, exactly. They'll be fine. Yeah. They didn't. Yeah, but
I feel like that's almost like a point of privilege because not necessarily everyone has that ability. You know?
There are moments in time where I wasn't able to do that, and when I did that, it wasn't a good time. Like I'd worked there for a year. I made a lot of money, but at a certain point, I kind of had to go. Okay, I'm not just not happy doing this. Like, this is negatively impacting my life. Like, it's negatively impacting my psyche. So I left, and it wasn't like I left because I was like, I got plenty of money, dude. I can fucking relax, chill. But I understand.
You wanted better for yourself.
Yeah,
but like, there's like parts of America where like there's nowhere to work really, except
That's
like
true.
a few big chain stores.
Yeah,
you can't, or like a meatpacking plant or something.
Yeah,
those people aren't going to be able to necessarily feel like they have agency to go anywhere else.
The other thing I would say, and this is getting very, very microscopic, but like, one of the things that helps me deal with the side of things and the acknowledgement that yes, there are some things about the job that I currently do that aren't exactly fulfilling or whatever is this.
Yeah,
like doing things outside of it that are. Yeah. So I
you have to make your own worth in life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But your job shouldn't necessarily take away from your.
It shouldn't. Yeah, but it shouldn't. But I also acknowledge the fact that we don't have control over that, like, as human beings. Like, there are certain situations that are just going to happen where you're going to have to do things that suck. And sometimes that ends up being a job. And it really sucks because that's something that now you're dependent on to be able to do anything else. Yeah. So I get it. I'm not excusing it. It's just one of those things where it's just like, I think that is inevitable.
But also, like, how much would, like, a lot of jobs suck less if, like, minimum wage was higher? Like, stuff like that, like, if you know, I
don't think that like, so I do think that like minimum wage is in a place where it shouldn't be, but I also don't think that is a solution to making a job feel fulfilling.
I can tell you this: I've had jobs where I've lost up to 20% of my pay, and that changed my value, my worth and feeling at the job drastically.
Okay.
So I feel like at a certain point, the reverse is also probably true. If you give someone more for doing their job, they're going to feel like they're worth more.
Sure. The only reason I disagree with this is because I have purposefully taken pay cuts to do a job that is better for my mental health, if that makes sense. Like,
absolutely.
So like I understand, like, because I'll use GameStop as an example. Like, when I first started that job, it was literally just like, hey, I'm in college, I want to make some money because I want to buy shit.
Yeah.
But I got attached to that company. I got attached to that job, and I began to identify, like, part of myself was identified with, I'm a game advisor, I'm a lead, I'm an assistant manager, I'm a manager now. Like, it's like, those things became like how I would describe myself. And eventually, and this is getting to the like, I'm enlightened kind of thing, but I'm not saying that, but it's just like, eventually I got to the point where I was like, this is not me. Like, this is like
a facet, but it's not all.
Yeah. Like, I don't even call it, like, I kind of go like, for jobs like that, and I've done jobs like that for a long time. I don't even go into, I gotta go into like almost a state of like, all right, I'm here, I've got to do my thing. But it's not, it's the thing that I use to fuel the thing I give a shit about.
Sure.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, I guess also, again, raising minimum wage would help more people have that opportunity to do that.
True. Yes. I can. Yeah. 100%. Not everyone can do that. Yeah. That's true.
A lot of people are working full-time positions and aren't making enough really to keep lights on and all. Yeah. Like, in the state of Florida, you can't have a single bedroom apartment on a salary.
Dude, you can't even get like, I've been trying to find like a 2 and 2 for so long, like just a house. It's insane.
And we just keep seeing,
it's absurd.
But what do we keep seeing go up is high-end luxury housing.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I never connect that too until you just said that. That's 100%. That's so annoying. Like, it's holy shit. I've seen it. Like, but then I'm like, oh yeah. You're not helping those people out at all.
And then that goes back to our earlier point of how much money do you have before you need to help people.
Sure.
If you are a developer and you're making multi-million-dollar like houses or anything for people, when we already have more houses than people in this country, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Build houses or build some form of living that people who don't have a stable income or are on lower income can get into.
Yeah.
Like, help people get up. Like,
yeah.
If Elon Musk went out there and took $100 billion and bought $100 billion worth of houses and gave it to needy families around the world or whatever, that would be one of the best acts of humanity in history. And he would not notice.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
He would not notice that amount of money drop.
Man. So one of the, I guess, complications of our society is the actually I'm gonna hold that thought. I saw something in the chat and I want to someone, I can't see the name, Shy Peach GG.
Yep.
I feel that I dropped a full-time position to get a part-time one at a company that was like my dream company at the time. Full-time position was taking a toll on my mental health. Yeah, also luxury apartments are a curse. They definitely are. Yeah. But I always think about the Oprah thing with the cars and how many people got fucked over with that
Because of the taxes.
Because of the taxes. I'm like, it's difficult to just do something like that unless the system is changed or adjusted in a way so that someone can do something like that. Like, because what happens if Elon was like, all right, we did it. Let's take $100 billion and do that. How many of those people are then going to be screwed over by like insurance, like homeowners insurance? Like, there's so many things that they
Sure.
have to have that they are not going to be able to like do.
But that also might require more steps on his part too, like to actually get the. Maybe it's the difference of not necessarily just giving them, but giving them the tools.
Sure.
And right now, people in America don't have the tools. But like a good way to like get people off the street is let them have a house. Not saying this, maybe not necessarily buy houses for people.
Mm-hmm.
Buy houses and let people use them to get like off the street. Something like that. And then he can use probably tax loops to make infinite more money. But at least then his money's going to something.
That's fair. I know there's like things like halfway houses and
Sure.
things of that nature. Like I think taking something like that formula and expanding it. I guess I wonder
because other countries have done stuff like that.
Like what kind of what
Like
stuff?
giving people houses. I think Finland did it like last year or something, or like 2 years ago, and it just almost none of them went back on the street because like having a place to live just lets you have a place. And like on like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what's the bottom one?
Yeah,
Place.
A place.
So obviously, like it's very hard for someone to go like from street poor to having a successful life just because they just don't have a place. And like a halfway house, it's a halfway, but like
it's not. Yeah.
It's not really, and a lot of them are underfunded.
Yeah, that's something I think where I lose all of my conservative like people that might listen to me is I'm okay with more taxes.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to, and the only reason I am is because of stuff like that. It's like that money isn't going to magically come out of the sky. At this point, I don't think we can expect that someone like Elon will ever do anything like that. So if you want to enact change in those people's lives, if you genuinely are like saying like I don't like the fact that these people are homeless, you got to put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly.
And that's where that is in taxes. So
and, like we see so many neighborhoods in like San Francisco and all who refuse to put up low income housing. And then they have a huge homeless population.
Like, you gotta. Like,
you have to do something.
Like, you either A, have to do something, or B, you don't care. And I'll say either position is fine. That's all right.
Gabe getting all the shout outs tonight.
Yeah, I love it. But that's what you got to do. Like, in my humble opinion, I think that in that one case, I know a lot of people like talk about like, oh well, like if we didn't pay taxes, like who would pay the roads and stuff? I don't give a shit about that. I care about like the effect that those kind of like programs and systems that are put in place to help people, like people, like you were saying, like get them off of like sleeping under a bridge. Like,
I mean, like under Eisenhower, the top marginal tax rate was 90%. Eisenhower, by no means could anyone ever call him a liberal.
Yeah.
An arch conservative, truly. And it went down gradually over the years until it got slashed by the Reagan administration. And then since then, the government has had multiple funding issues. We just keep spending more and more on the military.
Damn.
Whereas opposed where you could take some of that money and just do things to help people.
I wonder I wonder if that's even possible for that to happen now. I kind of fear that it can't.
The raising the tax rate or taking money from the military, either or.
I feel like the military is actually more realistic, like that. But
It's ridiculous how much we spend.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like it's. I can foresee a future where that is a bill that gets passed, like, and they start adjusting, like. But I don't know if I can. If I can see a future where like people are okay with, like, more people are okay with paying more to help people that they don't see.
I mean, we were fine with it for decades.
But people have gotten used to this now.
That's true, but just because people are used to something doesn't mean it can't change. We've had much more drastic changes in America than the tax rate going up.
I guess.
And a lot of Americans especially middle Americans, are about to see their taxes start going up in the next few years because the Trump tax cuts are ending on the middle class.
Yep.
So why are we okay for upper class people paying such a low tax rate, but not lower middle class? Like, obviously the tax burden, higher classes pay a higher percentage of the tax burden, right, to some extent. But when you're paying, when you're paying, X amount of money or whatever, but it's only like 20% of your income, versus someone who's at a lower tax bracket, it's also paying the same, like 20-ish%. It matters to them a lot more.
Yeah, the percentage of what that money means is different. Yeah.
Which is like my problem with like a flat tax, which has been pushed forever.
Yeah. It has to be a percentage thing. I don't understand why that anyone would even like. Well, I understand why somebody would want to push something like that, but I think it's very disingenuous for someone to be like, "Hey, this is a good solution." It's like, nah, dude, we get it. Like, we see what you're trying to do here.
It's not like rich people throughout history haven't built things for the world around them and all.
Sure.
But the world we're at now is just, they're just not willing.
Yeah. Or
they're willing to do vanity projects like SpaceX when we really need new roads, new electrical grid,
I would be fine, I guess, if those vanity projects generated money for smaller, like, actual projects. I prefer that the vanity project didn't exist and like they just spent more money. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, like, if somebody has the ability to do something that they A, want to do, B, isn't directly harming someone, like, I kind of don't want to stop them from doing that, but also at the same time, just like, man, wouldn't it be so much better if you did this?
Well, I'll use SpaceX for like a really good example of like a problem with this idea of like letting the government, like not letting corporations do it as opposed. We had NASA. Mm-hmm. NASA was solid, had a couple rocket explosions.
Yep.
But 60 years, got to the moon. Cool shit. Just got to Mars last week. Cool
awesome
shit.
Yeah.
We drastically cut their funding for years until they couldn't really launch rockets anymore. Now we still have NASA, but they do much smaller missions. But the federal government still subsidizes SpaceX to launch rockets
that don't work.
That blow up.
That explode. Yeah.
Like, and don't get me wrong, like, obviously rockets in America are like a weird, long story that have a weird Nazi start.
Yeah.
But a lot of things in America tend to, unfortunately. Yeah. But how is that helping? Like, how's that helping anyone except Elon Musk?
Like, it would help other people, I guess, if it wasn't solely tied to Elon, which it seems like. I know there was like I heard or read something about him working with NASA for something that has to do with like the space station.
He works with them.
Yeah.
But because you're having to go through a corporate entity as opposed to a government entity, there's going to be a desire to make profit usually above progress. Where NASA was a lot of progress, which is why a lot of those patents were given out and made billions for other companies. Maybe this is maybe the ignorance of me. I don't see where the profit comes from something like SpaceX. Profit comes because eventually Elon Musk sounds like wants to colonize. And colonizing is always easy to make profit in. I guess. But that's so far away. Like, he has billions of dollars in time. He's only in like his 50s? He doesn't have that much time.
He's younger than that.
Oh, I don't.
Is he?
Really?
I don't know.
Is Elon Musk in his 50s?
Let's find out, boys. Oh no, I lost my mouse. Never mind. Can't find out. I hate everything.
Can we take a quick break real quick?
Yeah. Let's take a quick break.
Yeah, I need a restroom real quick.
This is we'll turn this to the Gabe show for. We'll go to Gabe for commercial.
Oh man, definitely go to Gabe for commercial.
Yeah, it's fine. It'll be all right.
Oh, it's restroom.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
Welcome to Gabe's commercial break.
Oh, hold on. There it is.
Welcome to Gabe's commercial break. Let's talk 9/11. So hear me out. Building 7.
Okay.
You ever heard about Building 7?
No,
Joe?
I've not. I have not heard about Building 7. Inform me. Enlighten me.
I didn't plan to actually go into this.
I know. That's why.
So, are you familiar with the 9/11 conspiracy, Joe?
There's so many.
There's one.
Oh.
There's one that branches into many others, but there's the 9/11 conspiracy.
What's the 9/11 conspiracy?
That we did it.
You and me?
You and me.
Ah.
Yes.
Mm.
It was a long time ago. You probably don't remember.
I mean,
I was like 2, so.
I forget how much younger you are. You're not that much younger than me, are you though? Like
7, 8 years,
yeah,
probably. Yeah. You saying that makes me happy. Everyone else who's like a year or 2 older than me, they're always like
you're a baby.
Literally, they're like you're an infant. Yeah. And I'm like, all right. Well, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to say.
I remember. So stupid. There was a block during my school schedule when I was in middle school where I got bused to a different school to take like this advanced class. It was not that advanced. It was like
You've heard of 2 + 2.
Yeah.
Get ready for 2 + 3.
Dude. But I remember like they had that shit playing on the TV in there and I was like, oh, okay. So
you remember seeing it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Like
I guess that's the age gap difference there. All right, Gabe's commercial break's over.
No, it's not. He's going to take a smoke.
Oh, nice.
We'll probably get to maybe another 30 minutes and then wrap up after that. But yeah, man, I remember that the pause there was because I remembered something else from that school that just made me remember how like stupid posh it was, I guess.
Sure.
There was a point where we had Triscuits and caviar in middle school.
Huh?
Yeah.
What? Excuse me?
Yeah. I forgot about that until I was like
Triscuits?
Triscuits. Them dry
Get
ass
a better
fucking,
cracker at least.
Man.
What the hell?
Like those Triscuits and caviar, man. And I remember being a kid, I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking eat this shit. This is terrible. But then I was like, but I do want to know what this tastes like. So I tried it and I was like, why do people eat this shit? This is gross. Like, but goddamn.
You're better off just like pulling a redacted and putting salt on a plate. Just.
Oh my god. Somebody in chat, what is that? Cuban Slim? Cuban Slim.
Cuban Slim.
I like that. That's a great name.
Pretty good.
That's a quality name. Classes were canceled for me at UCF that day. That means that they're old. I think I know who that is now.
I don't.
I think I do.
Oh, I do actually.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't. I didn't put those two together. Yeah, I know who that is.
Mm-hmm. But
I'm still upset about that. In the end, it was very funny.
In the end, it was funny.
But I was so in the moment. I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, I've never been in recent times more confused over a dumb thing before.
Oh my god.
Okay, so
what's up?
Since we mentioned earlier, and since I'm on it, I figured might as well do it.
Yeah.
I went on Telegram real quick to find it, see if I can find, in the time I went to pee and smoke like half a cigarette, if I can find something bullshit crazy.
All right. Oh,
okay. So apparently there's some massive backlash against fake meat for GMOs or some bullshit.
Okay.
So I saw this lovely one.
Sounds like my fucking dad.
Where was it?
It's like this hits home.
There was a reply like, is that what's happening in Texas? They're making a weather freeze to kill off the cows. So
oh man. So when I hear stuff like that, is he joking or is he serious? Like,
it's impossible to know. But I can tell you, I checked this yesterday and there's been 7,000 messages. So even if he's not serious, someone might think it is. Oh yeah, here it is exactly. Is that why Texas is so cold? Isn't it cattle country? Cattle are not used to that weather and need water, and it's frozen. They're trying to kill them off. Just a thought. They want to force feed us this fake meat crap.
Okay,
that sounds like someone taking it pretty seriously.
I don't think that's a joke.
I know I've said it like 4 times already, but if you took that exact sentence and put it into my father's mouth, it would sound exactly.
Oh yeah, your father is totally Q-pilled.
I'm so sad.
I mean, because a lot of the right likes to use like the red pill, blue pill argument, but the Q pill is totally.
I actually like that. I'm gonna steal that from you.
Force feeding the Q pill.
Force feeding the Q pill. I mean, it's one of the worst ones you can take.
I just wonder, man.
It's really big. It's hard to swallow.
Yeah.
Like between that and the black pill, people are going off the rails.
Oh man, I have lost track of those things. Like I don't know. I've seen black pill used, but I don't know what exactly it entails.
So black pill is essentially an exception of nihilism.
Okay, all right, I see.
So hence why it's the black. You're just accepting the void.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who accept the black pill then become accelerationists to bring the country down.
Yeah.
Which is why groups like we saw the base come about. Those types of groups.
God. It sucks because like those kind of things are, for the little that I've been exposed to, are funny, but like when it's being applied genuinely and seriously, I'm like, oh wait, no, the joke's not. It was funny. It was supposed to be funny. Like it's not funny anymore.
I mean, I'd argue that like a lot of the like modern right wing internet culture is about taking it as far as you can, or farther than you should be able to, and then just saying everything past this point was a joke.
Yeah. Or
it's all joke. Even the stuff I said that's racial, or stuff like, or saying I'm going to kill someone.
Comedy sucks. Like when it. I mean, I don't consider myself a comedian, but that is a place where I stop, where I don't like. I will never go to a stand-up show and then be upset at something that was said. I have been to the not most recent, but one. Before I went to a Louis Black. Mm-hmm. He was in Orlando for a little. It was a great show. Awesome. Yeah. At the end of it, though, he fucked up. He was like, yo, I got this app, this program where everybody can like throw their questions in here and I'll talk about it. And of course it got very political. And I remember this one dude, I don't remember what Louis said, but I remember he took offense to it because he was in the military, and he just stood up and just started screaming like in this auditorium, and I was like, "Dog, he's filming this shit." Like I was like, "What you dick? Like, what are you doing right now? Like, holy shit! Like he's trying to film, like he's getting all this stuff for a special." I'm like,
but that guy probably tells that story all the time now about how he screamed during a Louis Black special.
Yeah,
like, and that was like a point of honor to him.
So bad. I remember it got to the point where like the dude who was sitting next to me was just like, yeah, let him fucking burn out. Like, let him talk. Like, we just like, we want to get back to like the fucking, we paid money for this shit.
Yeah, exactly. But, no one cares. Like, no one wants a heckler at any conversation. Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, I love watching like roast battles and stuff. Yeah. Where it can go way off the rails. Yeah. But like, there's a point between like comedy and even roasting someone, and then when you're going into slurs and conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And trying to rationalize those with humor is just wrong.
The thing I guess see it different, or not see it different. I don't know. The thing I like is that I want to be able to laugh at that stuff because I think that there are funny things about it without rationalizing it. Like just because I'm finding something about something funny doesn't mean that I'm also trying to rationalize it. If that makes any sense, like
sure.
The problem is other people can then take my laughter as that, and then they do it. So I think it just depends on the company that it's being done in.
It depends on the company. It also depends on the context. Like maybe laugh like a stupid whatever joke or whatever, but like if the joke is just like Jewish people eat babies, that's not a joke.
So like, but okay, so yeah, like
real knee slapper,
But the thing is, so even in you saying that, I laughed, but not laughing at the fact that you said that. It's more of laughing at how absurd it is.
Exactly.
Right.
But is a lot of people who are using it as like to like almost as like an recruitment or indoctrination are using it as like, oh, it must seem absurd. It seems absurd, but eventually, if you keep coming to that content over and over again, it's going to affect you.
Maybe. The only reason I say maybe is because I consume a lot of like edgy shit, and I don't consider myself like a person that's like, hey, I got these gamer words that I love saying. It's just, it's more of just like, I see it for humor's sake. But you're right. Like, not everyone will.
It also depends on like how deep you're going. Like, we can look at like a place like 4chan and be like, well, look at how that place is radicalized over the past decade.
Yeah.
And how much of that has just been, it's just memes.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, one of the, I don't know if it was 4chan though that did this whole thing. That whole, the OK symbol thing. I thought it was.
That was a 4chan.
Was it 4chan? Okay.
Yeah.
So like that thing. Stuff like that pisses me off because it's just like this has been around for so long, and yes, sometimes things like that do get opted by like co-opted by people. It frustrated me that no one even stopped to like think like, hey, where did this start?
Sure, but then when you see actual white supremacists like Richard Spencer throwing it up now after that in all their photos, it's like it's been kind of taken.
But do we just let that happen? Like, how do you, because I personally, I don't want fucking, you stop taking, you don't get symbols. Like, I don't want anybody like that to get symbols. So like, but it seems like every time something like that happens, people just go, yep, it's theirs. And there's just like, well, shit, dude. Like,
there's a movie I've really been wanting to watch actually about this. It's called Feels Bad Man. It's about the guy who created Pepe.
Yeah.
And his fight to reclaim it. And that must be so heartbreaking to see your art used in that type of way.
Yeah.
And it's like, at what point do you just go, I can't reclaim this, it's so tainted? And at what point do you just go, no, I have to keep fighting? And he's fought and he's sued so many people for using it. But
and he gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you can only fight so long, you know?
I guess. I would be for trying to put together a system so that things like that don't happen. Because if it seems as though the one single person can't fight for their art, like in this case, like he gets burned out or he literally just can't do it, then I feel like that's the part where people who, like me, don't want to see that happen, step in and help. Yeah. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, it might just be don't share Pepes. Like, just
don't what? Sorry,
don't share Pepes. Like, but I don't care how dank or rare they are. But like, if this is causing the creator like harm, if he's seeing Jewish Pepes or whatever, maybe don't share some of this stuff.
But then that's giving it away. That's not the solution to what I'm looking for, right? Like, I'm trying to find a way so that he can keep the integrity of what he made. People can continue using it in a humor like sense or whatever. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not allowed, or I don't know how you would fight that though. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, you can't, I don't think necessarily fight co-opting.
But I feel like the solution of just like laying down sucks. I don't like that. There's something about that just does not sit well with me at all. I mean, like it's just like you can't, like, I'm not gonna just give every single time somebody like who has some horrific ideas and opinions take something or a symbol and then now co-ops that. I don't know. I'm in my head right now because I haven't, like, I'm still thinking this all the way through. I'd much rather be confused as that than just give it up. Okay. Like, I'd much rather, like, no, I'll explain like why I'm doing this. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, that seems like that is, I'll take that hit in order to keep that thing.
I'll give it from my perspective on this, because I'm more willing to give it up because I don't want to get these people cover. I don't want to necessarily be like in pictures giving the OK symbol and then someone randomly is like, some like white supremacist shoots up a school or something and throws it, and then it's like, oh no, see, it's just a gag. See, all these other people are doing it. Like, it gives them cover to hide their beliefs and gives them more of an into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And sometimes these things, the definitions of things change. all the time. I mean, just Bring Around the Posy used to have a racial slur in it.
Oh yeah,
like
that was the dude from Top Gear that said that.
Oh, I have no idea who said. I learned that like this.
No.
week.
It's been around for a super long time. But
Yeah.
one of the main guys from Top Gear, he
or not Ring Around the Posy. What's one of the other ones?
Can you turn that back around?
Ring Around the Posy was the Black Plague one.
Oh, what the?
If it falls, then it falls. Okay, that's fine. All right, fuck it. Never mind.
No,
Appreciate
Ring Around the Posy is the Black Plague one. There's another one. The one that's
black. That's
no, it's the one that's catch a tiger by the toe.
Yeah,
that didn't always used to be tiger.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
exactly. Like,
yeah, but that's what he said. He said that on the like on the show, kind of like mumbling it as a joke. But then people were like, "He's fucking."
he PewDiePie'd it, man.
Yeah,
come on.
He didn't PewDiePie. It was a lot softer than PewDiePie. PewDiePie.
He did just shout.
Yeah,
I mean, it's also like different. Obviously, cultural implications there too.
Yeah.
Like, but it's still just dumb as shit. Like,
yeah, man. I don't like seeing things be slowly eroded, but at the same time, I don't really know how to stop that either. So, I don't know.
Have you ever seen Clerks 2?
No.
Okay, there's a character in it who tries to reclaim a racial slur.
Okay.
Who's a white man.
Okay.
Trying to reclaim a black racial slur.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I feel like when I like think about this is like, because he just looks so ridiculous saying it over and over again. And like puts on his shirt at one point. And it's just like, you can't reclaim this. It's too far gone.
Yeah. But okay, so it's too far gone because but at one point it wasn't. That's the issue that I have. It's like, yeah, it's too far gone, but it feels like the moment like 4 people use it, it's too far gone. And I'm like, really? Like it's like, at what point do we like? At some point leading up to the point where it's too far gone, was there something that could have been done to make it not get to that point?
It's hard to when you have coordinated efforts to actually like ruin some things, right?
I mean, that the OK Symbol thing was that.
It's a coordinated effort from 4chan. So was Pepe.
Yeah.
So are a lot of these like various meme types, like the Clown World meme. That's a 4chan thing. Like all these types of things. It's hard when when culture is being weaponized. You know?
Yeah. I think we still got like a good 20 minutes or so. I don't know if you had more of what you were trying to get to in that time.
I want to go through more of like the history, but like it's a lot more probably than 20 minutes realistically.
Okay, all right.
Like history of American fascism is like 100 years at this point. It's rooted in almost all facets of our society. So
I guess the one thing I'm trying to make the connection, because a lot of the stuff that you said earlier, like it's a lot of it's rooted from German, like
Italian, actually.
Okay.
The first real fascist state is Italy, and the first father of fascism is D'Annunzio or something like that. I have the name written down.
Yeah.
He's a proto-fascist, Gabriele D'Annunzio.
D'Annunzio. Okay.
He was
It's a good name. I'm upset that
Italian.
It sucks. Yeah. Like.
He was a poet who like ended up getting into political theory later in life. Post World War I, ended up taking over a city in Austria that was just a nonstop drug-filled orgy.
Nice.
But he was a big influence for Mussolini.
Right. I assumed, that it was gonna.
Yeah, obviously it had to.
It had to get tied.
And Mussolini's what inspired Hitler.
Right.
Because Hitler saw the push or the March on Rome.
Right.
And that's when the beer hall push happened, which failed. Went to prison, wrote Mein Kampf, came back a decade later, took Germany by storm, and then hence World War II, pretty much. But American fascism, like, obviously is like pretty deep, but you can really see like the steps of it in the 30s as well. Like I mentioned earlier in Father Kaplan, there was the German American Bund, which was a funded by Nazi Germany group in America.
Nice.
That did a rally at Madison Square Garden with a giant picture of Hitler in the background. You can see pictures of it.
That's
it is
crazy.
Mind-blowing. And this is America.
I mean, I guess at the time there wasn't like we knew it was bad, but the the scope of it is a lot easier to see now in the past than it was in the moment. So I can see how that could have happened, but like that is still crazy.
But look how many Americans went and fought in Spain against the fascists there. Like some Americans knew.
Yeah.
And the people who knew were like communists and anarchists. They knew that this ideology was wrong. Like in Germany, that's who mostly fought the Nazis at first, and that's who was first put in the camps.
Yeah.
I mean, Antifa, like that ideology, that like symbol is from that era.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I have so many takes on Antifa, but
well, I think the idea of anti-fascist action is good.
Sure.
You can argue if black bloc tactics are negative.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like this goes to a lot of different movements. Their names suck.
Yeah.
No, their names suck because like I'll fucking take some heat for this, but like I think feminism sucks. The name does not match what like it's supposed to be. Like I don't know. I think a lot of movements have that problem.
I think it, like in the case of feminism, it's just like named after the target at first. Like, because feminism was named, 100-something years ago. Right. And like first wave feminism is very different than current wave feminism.
Yes. Very much so.
So maybe necessarily like, that's why they have like different waves to like differentiate.
Sure, yeah.
But like Antifa is, I think, fine. It's just a shorthand. Like,
yeah.
I think it's been turned into a dirty word by a lot of the media, both left and right. 100%.
Yeah.
You see a bunch, which is understandable. You see a bunch of people wearing all black, going down a street or getting into fights.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
It's just like, okay, well, what are we doing exactly here? Like,
yeah. But like, when you look at like the things that they do, like they do a lot of things on top of that too. Like, there's a lot of like Antifa medics and all who are like at these events. Even like in Portland, where there's been big clashes between like Patriot Prayer and Proud Boys and Antifa groups. Their medics, Antifa medics, will still go and deal with anyone who's injured. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter ideology, because you just don't want to. You don't want to do fights, but like when you see groups that want to fight you,
I wonder if that means less because that's been a thing in war times. Like that was how if I remember correctly, I could be wrong about this, but I thought that was like a thing back in like God, when was World War II? Was that
World War II is the big fascism war? So
yeah, I'm trying to remember what years those were.
40s?
Is that the 40s?
It's 39 to 45, I believe. Okay, maybe 38.
But if I remember correctly, that was like there was a lot of laws of war or rules of war against like harming medics and things of that nature, like people that had jobs like that.
Yeah.
So and
no military in the world ever follows that.
I wouldn't say no. I would say that there's
name one.
I mean, I would imagine that otherwise, why would they make the rule in the first place? I'm sure
rules are made to be broken.
But like,
how many hospitals did Obama bomb?
Sure, no. I'm not saying that people just flat out like listen to that rule. What I'm saying is like, I would imagine there are a decent number of instances where someone would have been harmed, and that was used so that they didn't get harmed. There's most likely way more instances of people ignoring them, but like I would like to believe, and maybe I'm wrong about that too. Like I didn't go to war back then. I didn't go to war like when I could have gone to war. So like,
I mean, you still could.
Yeah,
it's America. You can always go to war.
I'm 30 years old. I'm old.
Me too.
That's not true though. Like
they'll take anyone, especially in reserves.
I always say that. I'm like, no, I'm 30. I'm good. I'm like, wait, no.
Don't worry, I'm going before you.
That's true.
You think so? Oh yeah,
Based on age.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're grabbing you, bud.
Yeah, they're snatching me.
But I was like, shit. I trade MMA. Like, I try to I try to live like a very like healthy life. I'm like, shit, I'm fucking this up.
I'm calling you and I'm saying, and I'm just being like, hey, this dude does MMA.
Yo, go ahead and get this guy. I'm just like, fuck,
guy.
No. I'll like go to the gym and like, you guys need to break my shin. Like someone needs to do this right now, so I don't. But I don't know how we got on that tangent. That's my special power.
It's just going in the tangent.
Yeah.
It's a good talent.
I don't know if it is, especially if you're a podcast. But
on this show, definitely is a great talent.
Yeah, I guess it is. It's good for that. I guess I intend on having you back on. But I guess before we like kind of start winding down, before I always tell people this is the point where like if you have stuff that you want to throw in the chat, I'm gonna spend time reading that and then like we'll burn through it real quick. But I don't know if you have anything that you want to shout out, like, or anything of that nature. But
for people like more interested on like history of fascism and all, you can, as I said earlier, Fascism by Umberto Eco. It's short, it's sweet, it's pretty easy to get through.
Gets the point done.
It's only an essay, so anyone can read it.
Yeah.
If you want a longer book, Anatomy of Fascism by Robert Paxton is considered one of the premier books on the subject, and I would 100% recommend it as well.
Okay.
It really breaks down how these movements started and how they build, and that's really important, I think, in a world where we're seeing that these things might happen here.
I agree that is something like sometimes a lot of people are like, oh, you keep pointing to the past and stuff, and I'm like, dog, like. Otherwise, how else are we gonna like see like these little moments of like, hey, wait, that's similar to that. Is this the same? It's not. Okay, cool, fine. Yeah. Oh, wait, that's similar to that. Like this is kind of the same. Like let's fucking put it into that. So I get that.
Marx has a quote to like that effect that I'm gonna paraphrase because I don't know off the top of my head, but it's history always comes in twos. First as like a fantasy, then as a farce. So like. These things have happened. Yeah. We've seen them happen. They're going to happen again, but they're going to be different. Yeah. Every time history,
it just does repeat.
I've also heard the phrase, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
I like that.
I like that a lot. I like that one. So these things are happening, so we can go back to our historical, what we've seen these events happen, and take a view and be like, okay, well, this thing has happened here. Well, this is kind of like that. So maybe keep an eye out.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't realize you were such a poet.
I tried.
Yeah. But
and one little thing, if people want to check out a fun fact of American fascism I didn't know about till this week, go Google the White House push. Is when there was a attempted fascist insurrection against FDR.
Oh, interesting.
It's a fun one.
But yeah, I part of me wants to be like, hey Gabe, how you doing over there?
Yeah, you doing good, buddy?
I said this from the from weeks ago. I'm filling my filing cabinet. The cabinet overflowed like 45 minutes ago. So for a minute now we've been like but I enjoy this quite a bit still.
I'm glad. So. I did too. I hope people do. Like, something I've always been afraid of with this whole thing is figuring out the balance between like the funny stuff and then the stuff that is genuinely serious that like is worth talking about and worth bringing up. It's kind of easy to do when I'm just sitting around. I'm playing some like game that doesn't really require my entire focus, but then I can talk about whatever. But it's a little bit. I feel as though, and like my chat and audience can tell me whether or not I'm wrong about this, but I feel as though it's harder for people to sit down and focus on these long form conversations like this. Fair. So like I don't know. I like being a part of them, and I just hope that the people that are watching enjoy being a part of them as well. But
I will say, at least for something, if we do a topic like this in the future, I think one of the best ways to deal with the topic of fascism is humor.
Okay.
Like, have you ever heard The Great Dictator by Charlie Chaplin?
Yeah.
Perfect way of doing fascism, but funny.
Yeah.
Like, that type of idea really shows how ridiculous these ideas are.
Yeah. I mean, I think the next time that we like venture into that, it probably will take... There's so many ways that this changes every time, even like from episode to episode. Like there's always like little small things that are adjusting. So I always like hearing that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. But I think we'll call it there. We got the last. You should wear spacesuits while talking or having this discussion. Listen, if they give me a deal to make an exclusive Spotify thing, then sure, absolutely.
How about this?
Spacesuit.
If we do an episode on conspiracies, we can do spacesuits for that one. Because
Sure.
that one will be out
Down.
of the moon. You need to be there for that one, though, and be in that one.
I will absolutely. No, that's one I'll actually talk about. However, if I'm losing my mind with his name. Who's the guy that directed? Who?
You're doing the thing where it's just like
this is why we did. This is why we did it. Do you see what happened?
Yeah.
You know how they say that the guy that they faked the moon landing, the American director that quote unquote filmed it.
Oh yeah, 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yes. Stanley Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick.
Okay. I'm gonna dress up like Stanley Kubrick.
Okay. Kubrick.
And then you guys wear spacesuits.
Okay.
Oh, so you're gonna be our director?
Correct.
Got it.
I like
this.
it. I like it.
I mean, I've talked to you about like doing the production side of this before, so that would be extremely fitting.
Still on board.
But yeah,
you can let me click the keys.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be over there. We'd still be able to hear you.
Hey.
Well, no, like I have a sound thing that I can set up over
perfect.
here so that we can hear you from in there, but you'd be
with hats made of actual tinfoil.
Oh, that
I mean, that's required.
Yeah, I think that has to happen.
I thought that was actually implied.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just like put them on top of the helmet.
Oh yeah, like it's just like there's the dome, but like
ooh, it might be hard to find a helmet though that's good for a mic. Visors don't do well.
That's true.
Well, sound.
A lot of the like costume ones have like the little thing that
would work.
Yeah, that'd be dope. It'd be hot as hell, but it'll be fun.
We can brainstorm this.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Thanks again. I'm gonna call it a night. Thanks for you guys for watching.
I'm alone, I'm a broken heart.